The keys felt heavy in Jenny's palm as she stood before apartment 4B, her entire life crammed into 6 cardboard boxes stacked against the hallway wall. 27 years old and starting over again. But this time would be different. This time, Marcus wouldn't find her. She'd chosen this building specifically. Old, quiet, rent-controlled. The kind of place where neighbors minded their business and didn't ask questions. Perfect for disappearing. The lock clicked open. Jenny dragged the first box inside, her muscles aching from 3 flights of stairs. No elevator, but that was fine. Harder for anyone to corner her. Need help? Jenny spun around, her heart launching into her throat. A man stood in the hallway, leaning against the doorframe of 4A, her neighbor. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair pushed back from his face and a jawline that could cut glass. He wore a simple black shirt that did nothing to hide the lean muscle underneath, and his eyes were the kind of brown that looked almost black in the dim hallway light. Handsome, devastatingly so. Also blocking her only exit. "I'm fine," Jenny said, her voice steadier than she felt. She'd learned the hard way that accepting help from strange men came with invisible strings attached. His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Tony, 4A," he gestured to his door. "Welcome to the building." "Jenny," she didn't offer her hand, didn't move from her defensive position near her apartment. Tony's dark eyes studied her for a moment, reading something in her posture that made his expression shift. The almost smile faded. "If you need anything, I'm usually home evenings." He disappeared back into his apartment before she could respond. Jenny released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She spent the next 2 hours hauling boxes, triple-checking the locks, and pushing her second-hand dresser against the door for good measure. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, a kitchenette barely big enough to turn around in, a bathroom with tiles from the 70s. The walls were thin enough that she could hear Tony moving around next door, footsteps crossing what must be an identical layout. She unpacked her clothes first, then the essentials. The photo of her mother went on the nightstand, the only family she had left, gone 3 years now from cancer. Everything Jenny owned fit in this tiny space, and that should have felt depressing. Instead, it felt like freedom. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. Jenny's blood turned to ice. "I know you left, baby. You can't hide from me." Marcus. Somehow, despite the new phone, the new number, the new everything, he'd found her again. Her hands shook as she blocked the number, then blocked 3 more that came rapid fire, each message more threatening than the last. She'd changed her number 4 times in 6 months. He always found her. Always. A crash from the hallway made her jump. Voices, angry male. Jenny crept to her door, pressing her ear against the wood. "Told you the payment's late." A voice she didn't recognize, rough and threatening. "Mr. Catalano doesn't appreciate being kept waiting." "Tell Catalano he'll get his money when I get paid." This voice was younger, nervous. "I just need another week." "You needed another week last month." A thud, like someone being shoved against a wall. "This is your final warning." Jenny's door swung open before she could stop herself. 2 men had a third pinned against the hallway wall. The younger guy looked barely 20, his face pale with fear. The other 2 were built like refrigerators, all muscle and menace. "Hey," Jenny's voice came out stronger than she felt. "Leave him alone." 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. The kid looked grateful. The thugs looked annoyed. "Mind your business, lady," one of them said. "I'm calling the police." Jenny held up her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "No," the kid's eyes went wide with panic. "Please don't." Tony's door opened. The change was instantaneous. The 2 thugs went rigid, their faces draining of color. They released the kid so fast he nearly collapsed. "Boss," one of them stammered. "We didn't know, we were just..." "Leaving." Tony's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. He didn't raise it, didn't move from his doorway, but the 2 men scrambled toward the stairs like their lives depended on it. Which, Jenny realized with growing horror, they probably did. The kid muttered a thanks and disappeared after them, leaving Jenny alone in the hallway with her neighbor. Her very dangerous neighbor. "You should go inside," Tony said, his dark eyes meeting hers. Not a suggestion, a command wrapped in courtesy. "What are you?" Jenny asked, even though she already knew. She'd grown up in the city. She recognized the signs, the deference, the fear, the power that radiated from him like heat. "Your neighbor," Tony's expression gave nothing away. "Go inside, Jenny, lock your door." This time, she listened. But she didn't sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Tony move around next door. Every sound made her flinch. She'd escaped one dangerous man only to move in next to another, one who made Marcus look like a playground bully. Her phone buzzed again, another unknown number. "See you soon, beautiful, real soon." Marcus, getting bolder, getting closer. Jenny pulled her blanket tighter, her rich brown skin covered in goosebumps despite the warm night. She'd thought moving to this building would keep her safe, invisible. Instead, she was trapped between two threats, with nowhere left to run. Morning light filtered through her thin curtains. Jenny had maybe slept an hour, her body too wired with adrenaline to rest. She showered quickly, dressed in jeans and a simple top, and was heading out for a coffee when she nearly collided with Tony in the hallway. "Sorry," she mumbled, moving to step around him. "Wait." His hand caught her arm, gentle but firm. Jenny tensed. "The men yesterday, they won't bother you again." "Because you're their boss." It wasn't a question. Tony's jaw tightened. "I'm a lot of things, but I don't hurt women, and I don't tolerate it in my organization." His eyes dropped to where his fingers circled her wrist, then lower to the fatting bruises on her forearm that her long sleeves usually covered. This morning, she'd been too tired to care. His expression darkened. "Who did this to you?" Jenny pulled away. "None of your business." "You're my neighbor. That makes it my business." "I can take care of myself." "I'm sure you can." Tony's voice softened slightly. "But you don't have to, not anymore." There was something in his eyes, something protective and fierce and completely terrifying. Because Jenny knew what men like Tony did to people who hurt what they considered theirs. And she was beginning to suspect he'd decided she belonged in that category. Jenny walked past him without another word, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. The morning air hit her face as she pushed through the building's entrance, but it did nothing to clear her head. A mafia boss. Her neighbor was a mafia boss who noticed her bruises and was looking at her like she was something precious to protect. This was worse than Marcus. This was so much worse. She ducked into the coffee shop on the corner, ordered a black coffee she didn't want, and sat by the window watching people pass. Normal people with normal problems. She used to be one of them before Marcus, before the restraining order that meant nothing, before running became her default state. Her phone rang, her boss. "Jenny, I'm sorry." Linda's voice was tight with regret. "I have to let you go." The coffee shop tilted. "What? Why?" "A man came by yesterday asking about you. He was insistent, aggressive. I can't have that kind of trouble at the salon." Marcus. He'd found her workplace before she'd even finished her first week. "Linda, please." "I'm sorry, your final check is in the mail." Click. Jenny stared at her phone. No job, rent due in 3 weeks, and a stalker who wouldn't stop until he dragged her back or put her in the ground. She was out of options. The walk back to the apartment felt like a death march. Jenny climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. When she reached the 4th floor, Tony was waiting outside her door. "You look like you could use a drink," he said. "It's 10 in the morning." "Coffee, then." He held up 2 cups from the shop she just left. "I saw you go in. You forgot yours." Jenny looked at the cup in her hand, empty. She drunk it without tasting a single sip. "How did you know my order?" "I pay attention." Tony handed her the 2nd cup. Black, no sugar, exactly right. "Can we talk?" Every instinct screamed at her to say no. But the exhaustion was crushing, and for reasons she couldn't explain, something about Tony felt safe despite everything she knew he was capable of. 5 minutes, she said. His apartment was nothing like she expected. No gaudy displays of wealth, no leather and dark wood. Instead, it was surprisingly minimal, clean lines, comfortable furniture, books on every surface. A chess set sat half-played on the coffee table. "You play?" Jenny asked, gesturing to it. "Against myself, mostly. Helps me think." Tony motioned for her to sit. "Tell me about him." "I don't know what you're—" "The man who put those bruises on you, the one you're running from." Tony's dark eyes were steady, patient. "I've seen fear before, Jenny. I know what it looks like." Something in her chest cracked. Maybe it was the sleepless night, or losing her job, or the weight of 6 months running with nowhere left to go. Whatever it was, the words started spilling out. She told him about Marcus, about the charm that had turned to control, the control that had turned to violence, about the restraining order, the new phone numbers, the constant moving, about how he always found her always. Tony listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every word. "He texted me last night," Jenny finished. "He knows where I am." "Show me." She pulled up the messages. Tony's jaw clenched as he read them, something dangerous flickering behind his eyes. "This ends now," he said quietly. "You can't. There's nothing anyone can do. I've tried the police, lawyers, everything. He's careful. Never leaves evidence, never does anything they can prove." "I'm not the police." Tony set down her phone. "And I don't need evidence." The implication hung in the air between them. Jenny should have been horrified, should have run. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in months: hope. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Tony moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the small space between them. "I know you're brave. I know you've been fighting alone for too long. And I know—" He stopped himself, something shifting in his expression. "Know what?" "That I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you moved in yesterday." The confession came out rough, reluctant, which is extremely inconvenient considering my line of work. Jenny's breath caught. There was heat in his gaze, desire mixed with something softer that made her stomach flip. "I'm not looking for, I can't do this," she stammered. "I just got away from—" "I know." Tony stepped back, giving her space. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm offering protection, nothing more, unless you want more." The air between them crackled with possibility. Jenny's skin felt too tight, her pulse racing for entirely different reasons now. Her phone buzzed. Both of them looked down. "Found your new building, baby. Bet you thought you were so smart." A photo followed, the front of their building, taken from across the street. Jenny's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Marcus was here, right now. Tony was already moving, pulling his phone out and making a call. "Vincent, I need eyes on my building now. White male, late 20s, probably watching from the street. Don't approach, just locate and follow." He hung up and turned to Jenny. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight." "Where?" "Somewhere safe, somewhere he can't find you." "He always finds me." Tony's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing across her rich brown skin with surprising gentleness. "Not this time. I promise you, Jenny, not this time." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. Another text. "I can see your window from here. Which one is it? I'll figure it out." "Now, Jenny." Tony's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "We don't have time." She ran to her apartment, threw clothes into a backpack with shaking hands. Her mother's photo, her documents, the few things that mattered. Tony appeared in her doorway, a gun visible in a holster at his hip. "Ready?" Jenny nodded, unable to speak past the fear lodged in her throat. They took the back stairs, Tony moving with quiet efficiency. His car was parked in the alley, a black sedan that probably cost more than Jenny made in a year. He opened the passenger door, one hand on the small of her back as she got in. "Where are we going?" she asked as he pulled out. "My safe house. It's outside the city, completely off-grid. Nobody knows about it except my most trusted people." "And you're taking me there because—" Tony glanced at her, something intense burning in his dark eyes. Because the thought of him touching you again makes me want to burn the entire city down to find him." The confession should have scared her. Instead, it ignited something warm and dangerous in her chest. They drove in silence, the city giving way to suburbs, then countryside. Jenny watched Tony's hands on the wheel, strong, capable, with scars across the knuckles that told stories of violence. She should be running from him too. But she wasn't. She was leaning into his danger like it was the only safe harbor in a storm. "Tell me about your mother," Tony said suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "What?" "The photo on your nightstand. I saw it when you were packing. She had your eyes." Jenny's throat tightened. "She died 3 years ago, cancer. She was all I had." "I'm sorry." "What about your family?" Tony's expression shuddered. "Dead, most of them anyway. My father built an empire and left me to maintain it. My mother died trying to leave him. I have a sister in Milan. She got out, married a dentist, pretends I don't exist." "Do you blame her?" "No." His hands tightened on the wheel. "I'd do the same if I could." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open between them. This dangerous man who commanded fear and respect, he was just as trapped as she was, just in a different cage. The safe house appeared through the trees, a modern structure of glass and steel, isolated and beautiful. Tony parked and killed the engine. "We'll be safe here," he said. "I need to make some calls, handle Marcus. You should rest." Jenny caught his arm as he moved to exit. "Tony, what are you going to do to him?" His dark eyes met hers, and in them she saw the truth. Mercy wasn't in his vocabulary. "What needs to be done?" The safe house interior was all clean lines and expensive minimalism, furniture that looked like art, technology embedded in every surface. But Jenny barely noticed. She was watching Tony pace the living room, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that sounded like poetry and threats woven together. He hung up and turned to her. "My men have him. Marcus is at a warehouse on the east side." Jenny's stomach lurched. "What are you going to do?" "That depends on you." Tony crossed to her, his presence magnetic and overwhelming. "I can make him disappear, completely. No one would ever find him, and you'd never have to look over your shoulder again." "You mean kill him?" "I mean protect you." His voice was gentle, but his eyes were hard as obsidian. "I've killed men for far less than what he's done to you." Jenny's hands were shaking. She should say no, should be horrified, should grab her bag and run from this beautiful monster offering her freedom wrapped in blood. "I want to see him first," she heard herself say. Tony went very still. "Jenny, I need to see his face. I need him to know he doesn't scare me anymore." The words came from somewhere deep and dark inside her. "Can you give me that?" Something like admiration flickered across Tony's face. "You're braver than you know." "Or stupider." His mouth curved, a real smile this time, devastating in its rarity. "Brave, definitely brave." The drive to the warehouse took 40 minutes. Jenny spent them in silence, her heart hammering against her ribs. Tony's hand found hers in the dark car, his fingers lacing through hers with surprising tenderness. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I do." The warehouse was exactly what she expected: rusted metal, broken windows, the smell of decay and neglect. 2 of Tony's men stood guard outside, both armed, both dangerous-looking. They nodded to Tony with deference that bordered on fear. Inside, Marcus was tied to a chair under a single hanging bulb. Jenny's breath caught. He looked smaller than she remembered, less threatening. Blood trickled from his split lip, and his eye was already swelling shut. His expensive suit was rumpled, his cocky confidence shattered. "Jenny," relief flooded his face when he saw her. "Baby, thank God. Tell them who I am, tell them we're together. This is all a misunderstanding." "We're not together." Her voice was steady, cold. "We never were. You were just a man who thought he owned me." Marcus's expression twisted. "You ungrateful bitch. After everything I did for you." Tony moved so fast Jenny barely saw it. His fist connected with Marcus's jaw, snapping his head back. "Watch your mouth." "Who the hell are you?" Marcus spat blood on the concrete floor. The man who decides whether you live or die. Tony's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. Right now, I'm leaning heavily toward die. Jenny stepped closer, forcing herself to look at Marcus, really look at him. This man had controlled her life for months, made her afraid to sleep, to breathe, to exist. He'd broken her ribs, bruised her skin, stolen her peace. And now he was nothing, just a pathetic man tied to a chair, terrified and small. I want you to know something, Jenny said. You didn't break me, you tried, but you failed. I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. And you, she leaned in close, you're already gone. Marcus's face contorted with rage and fear. You can't do this. People know where I am, they'll come looking. No one's coming. Tony's hand settled on Jenny's shoulder, a warm weight of protection. Your friends think you left town. Your family thinks you're on a business trip. You're a ghost, Marcus. You just don't know you're dead yet. The reality of his situation finally hit Marcus. Jenny watched the color drain from his face, watched him realize he'd pushed too far, hurt the wrong woman, crossed the wrong man. Jenny, please, his voice broke. I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone, I swear, just let me go. I don't believe you, Jenny turned to Tony. I want to leave now. Tony studied her face. Are you sure? Last chance to say the word, and this problem disappears permanently. Jenny looked at Marcus one final time. She should want him dead. After everything he'd done, he deserved it. But she wasn't like Tony. She didn't have that darkness in her, that ability to make impossible choices without flinching. I just want him gone from my life, she whispered. However you make that happen. Tony nodded slowly. He pulled out his phone, made a brief call in Italian. When he hung up, he turned to Marcus. You're getting on a plane to Alaska tonight. You'll work in a fishing operation my organization runs up there. Hard labor, terrible conditions, no contact with the outside world. You try to leave, you try to contact Jenny, you even think about her wrong, and my people will know. And then I won't be merciful. You call that mercy, Marcus's voice cracked. I call that letting you breathe. Tony's smile was razor-sharp. Most men don't get that privilege after touching what's mine. Mine. The word sent heat spiraling through Jenny's stomach. Outside, in the cool night air, Jenny's legs finally gave out. Tony caught her before she hit the ground, pulling her against his chest. She could feel his heart beating steady and strong beneath his shirt. You did good, he murmured into her hair. It's over. Is it? Jenny pulled back to look at him. Or did I just trade one dangerous man for another? Tony's jaw tightened. I told you I don't hurt women, I would never. I know, and somehow, impossibly, she did. But you're still dangerous, Tony. Your world is dangerous. Getting close to you is dangerous. Yes, he didn't sugarcoat it, didn't make promises he couldn't keep. My life is blood and violence and choices most people couldn't live with. Anyone close to me becomes a target. Then maybe I should leave, take this second chance and disappear somewhere new. Tony's hands cupped her face, his dark eyes blazing with something intense and terrifying. You could, you should, but God help me, Jenny, I don't want you to. The confession hung between them like a live wire. Jenny's breath came short, her skin tingling everywhere he touched. This is crazy, she whispered. I barely know you. I know, his thumb traced her lower lip, but I've never wanted to know someone more. Jenny rose on her toes and kissed him. It was reckless and stupid, and exactly what she needed. Tony made a rough sound in his throat, his arms banding around her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss was heat and hunger and desperation, two broken people finding something whole in each other. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Tony rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said quietly. Not forever, not in my world, just stay. Let me keep you safe while you figure out what comes next. Jenny knew she should say no. Should take her freedom and run as far as possible from this beautiful, dangerous man who looked at her like she was something precious. But she was so tired of running. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Tony's smile was brilliant, transforming his whole face. He kissed her again, softer this time, full of promise. They drove back to the safe house in comfortable silence, Tony's hand resting on her thigh. Jenny felt lighter than she had in months, like she could finally breathe. The safe house was dark when they arrived. Tony unlocked the door, his hand automatically reaching for the light switch. It didn't work. He went very still. "Stay behind me." "What's wrong?" The backup generator should have kicked on. Tony pulled his gun, his body shifting into something lethal and controlled. Someone cut the power. Jenny's blood turned to ice. "Marcus." In a warehouse across the city, Tony's voice was tight. "This is someone else." A lighter flicked on in the darkness. In its glow, Jenny saw a woman, petite, dark-haired, beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way. She sat in Tony's chair like it was a throne, a gun resting casually on her lap. "Hello, brother," the woman said in Italian-accented English. "Surprised to see me." Tony's gun didn't waver. "Isabella, what are you doing here?" "Saving your life." Isabella's eyes shifted to Jenny, cold and assessing. "Though I see you've been busy making new problems. Tell me, Antonio, does this pretty thing know what you really are, what you've done?" "Leave her out of this." "Too late." Isabella stood, her gun now pointed directly at Jenny's heart. "She's already in it, and so are you. The families have called a meeting, Tony. They know about the FBI informant in your organization. They think it's you." Tony's face went white. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Isabella's smile was cruel. "You've been acting strange for months. Secret phone calls, money moving in unusual patterns, and now this." She gestured to Jenny with her gun. "A civilian you're protecting for no reason. They think you're trying to make a deal, brother. They think you're about to betray them all." "I would never." "I know." Isabella's voice softened slightly. "But they don't, and they've sent me to bring you in, both of you." Jenny's mind raced. She'd escaped Marcus only to walk into something infinitely more deadly, a mafia war with her and Tony at the center. Tony slowly lowered his gun. "If I go with you, you let her go. She's innocent in this." "No," Jenny grabbed his arm. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to." "She's right." Isabella's laugh was bitter. "She leaves, she's dead in a week. The families will tie up all loose ends. Her only chance of survival is staying exactly where you can protect her." "Then we run," Tony said. "Tonight, both of us." "Run where?" Isabella's gun never wavered. "They have people everywhere, Tony. In every city, every country. You taught me that yourself." The lighter flickered out, plunging them into darkness. When it flicked back on, Isabella was closer, her expression unreadable. "I'm going to give you 12 hours, she said quietly. "Find the real informant, clear your name, or disappear so completely not even God could find you. After that, I can't protect you anymore." "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're my brother, and because—" Isabella's eyes softened just for a moment, "because Mama would have wanted me to." She was gone before Tony could respond, disappearing into the darkness like a ghost. Tony turned to Jenny, his face grim in the dim light. "I'm sorry. I never meant to drag you into this." "Into what exactly?" Jenny's voice shook. "What did she mean, what you've really done?" Tony's silence was answer enough. "Tell me," Jenny demanded. "If I'm risking my life for you, I deserve the truth." Tony holstered his gun and moved to the window, looking out into the darkness. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. 5 years ago, I killed a man, a rival boss who was threatening my territory. But it wasn't just him, his wife was there, his daughter. Jenny's stomach dropped. "Tony." "I let them live, let them go. It was a mercy I shouldn't have shown, a weakness that's haunted me since." He turned to face her, his eyes full of ghosts. "That daughter, she joined the FBI. She's been hunting me ever since. And now someone in my organization is feeding her information, setting me up to take the fall for crimes I didn't commit while the real traitor takes over." "Who?" "I don't know, but I have 12 hours to find out." Tony crossed to her, his hands gentle on her shoulders despite the violence in his eyes. "You should go, Jenny. This isn't your fight." Jenny thought about running, about taking this chance and never looking back. But she looked at Tony. This complicated, Dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd saved her when he could have ignored her, and made her choice. "No," she said firmly. "I'm staying, we figure this out together." Tony's expression cracked, revealing something raw and vulnerable underneath. "You're either very brave or very foolish." "Both, probably." Jenny managed a shaky smile. "Now where do we start?" Tony pulled her into a fierce embrace, his face buried in her hair. "Together," he whispered. "We start together." Behind them, Jenny's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You think you're safe with him? You have no idea what he's capable of. Tony Catalano is a monster, and monsters always destroy what they love." "A friend." Jenny's blood ran cold. She looked up at Tony, saw the determination and darkness warring in his eyes, and wondered. Had she finally found safety? Or had she just walked into the most dangerous trap of all?